Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio on W4HC Radio, where you can learn to accelerate your body, mind, and spirit to reclaim the true potential that exists within you through cutting-edge wellness, tools, and modalities. Here's your host, Sarah Banta.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio. I'm your host, Sarah Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3 teenagers. I told the kids yesterday I'm now CEO of this business that I'm running with raising these 3 kids as they're home during the quarantine. So my job has gotten a little bigger. I do believe that your body does want to and is capable of rebuilding and healing itself, regardless of what chronic disease you may have. And I'm here to answer your questions and bring you innovative and cutting-edge technology and health solutions to empower you and your ability to reach your optimal state of health. Before we welcome our guest, I wanted to talk quickly about the new immune bundle through Accelerated Health products we have. We are all in a situation where we know the best defense to the current threat is our own immune system. Those exposed to the coronavirus who have little to no symptoms are those with strong immune systems and no underlying health issues. We are seeing the people that are really struggling are ones with diabetes, lung issues, or any chronic autoimmune issues that are happening. And so I've put together 3 of my best immune boosting supplements that are extremely well working and work synergistically together. We'll be discussing the first of the 3 supplements, MyVitalC, with our guest, Chris Burres, in a little bit. But I wanted to just touch on the other 2, which are the Acceleradine Iodine and Accelerated Scalar Silver. So those 3 together are in the new immune bundle. So iodine is the wild card in supporting the immune system. And I have so many people say, well, isn't it dangerous to overdose on iodine, and should everyone really be taking it? Well, 96% of the United States is deficient in iodine, and it is antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antiseptic, antioxidant, and the list goes on and on. It also produces healthy apoptosis, which is the natural cell death of unhealthy cells. And there is no pathogen resistant to iodine. Iodine was used to protect people from the 1918 flu pandemic that killed over 30 million people. So here we are in the same type of situation. And iodine has been proven to be more powerful of an antioxidant than vitamin C and vitamin E. And it's also more powerful than oxygen therapies. So what else does it do for you? We all know that it helps with your thyroid health, and the thyroid is the key endocrine gland for the immune system. The thyroid produces T4. 4 stands for iodine atoms, and without iodine, the thyroid is unable to produce that T4, and that's necessary to produce the T3, which stands for 3 molecules of iodine. It helps reverse hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's and hyperthyroidism, and it helps support apoptosis. Like I mentioned, it protects ATP function and enhances ATP function, and that is your energy. It also prevents fibrocystic breast disease, helps decrease insulin needs in diabetics. It supports protein synthesis in the body. It helps reduce inflammation throughout the body, and inflammation is the number 1 cause of all disease. So you really need to reduce inflammation throughout the body. It helps eliminate the toxic halogens like bromine, chlorine, and fluoride throughout the body. Those things are in our foods, in pesticides, in pollution in the air, and they're clogging our thyroids, they're clogging our cells, and if we're deficient in iodine, then those toxins find their way in those receptor sites for the iodine. So when you have a sufficient amount of iodine in your body, those halogens are unable to actually get into the cells. It's really important. Iodine also helps regulate estrogen production. It hydrates you without drinking water. This is the most amazing thing. It neutralizes hydroxyl ions and hydrates the cells. It helps to eliminate oxidative stress because it neutralizes those ions. And this is one of the most potent free radicals. So it has that antioxidant effect. It also helps make us smarter. Who doesn't need that? Low iodine is associated with low IQ, and it also is associated with mental functioning in adults because iodine not only chelates the lead, it prevents lead from lodging into the body in the first place, and especially in the brain, and that's what causes brain fog. It's amazing when you start taking the iodine how the brain fog lifts and you are feeling better, the depression lifts, and you're actually smarter, and I've noticed that as well in myself. It helps prevent heart disease and also protects us from EMFs. And with all the smartphones and smart meters that we are being exposed to, this will help protect us from the radiation, especially with the acceleridine iodine. Acceleridine is actually charged with scalar technology that detoxes you from radiation. No other iodine does this, and no other iodine is monoatomic and 100% bioavailable. So that is the difference between acceleridine and some of the others that are out there. It helps support pregnancy. It helps with all diseases, and it's been shown that high doses of iodine have been used to cure syphilis, skin lesions, and chronic lung disease. And it helps with wounds and scars. And the last thing that I truly have seen in myself is it supports spiritual development. So as you're feeding your pineal gland in your brain, which is also known as your third eye, you're connecting to your higher self, and that brain fog lifts and you just feel so much better. So that's the acceleridine, and now the accelerated scalar silver. So we've been hearing, I'm sure you've been hearing, that silver in general is a natural way to boost your immune system during this current threat. But the new accelerated scalar silver takes silver to a whole nother level. It has an alkalinity pH of 8.0, and most silvers out there are actually acidic. You need an alkaline environment to starve out foreign pathogens in general. But this one is programmed with bioinformational scalar technology to further help strengthen the immune system and devitalize those foreign pathogens. Furthermore, we use microclustered water technology to lower the surface tension. What that means is that the silver is actually getting into the cells more efficiently for better absorption. And it's structured with using pi ratio magnetic implosion technology. I know that doesn't make sense to most of us, but it is something that no other company is doing, and it just takes the silver to a whole nother level. So those are my two other supplements that in the immune bundle beyond the MyVitalC that we're going to get into after the commercial break, which I'm super excited to talk to Chris afterwards, and we will be right back.
Are you wanting to optimize your physical, mental, and emotional health? Visit www.acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Accelerated Health Products to detox, reset, and rebuild your immune system naturally, and to accelerate your body, mind, and spirit with cutting-edge supplements and solutions. Get Sarah Banta's personal advice on a protocol just right for you. That's www.acceleratedhealthproducts.com.
And we're back. It's Sarah Banta with Accelerated Health Products. And now to introduce my guest, who I'm beyond excited, Chris Burres is we had him on the show. For those of you who missed the first interview, you can find it under episode 5 at Accelerated Health Radio. Chris is the owner of SES Research, the first company to deliver carbon nanomaterials, and MyVitalC, the world's first nano antioxidant. When Chris realized a Nobel Prize-winning chemical tested by NASA had been proven to almost double the lifespan of mammals, he decided to take it into as a household item, and it's definitely a household item in this house. He's now on a mission to help people live longer, healthier, and pain-free lives, one dose at a time. Welcome, Chris. How are you today?
Wonderful, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so glad to be back on your show. I feel like episode 5 was a really good one, and we're going to make this one even better.
Absolutely. And I mean, since we last talked, I have to tell you, all 5 of us are taking it, even my dog. And she had a surgery and she recovered so quickly and so nicely. And I know it's because of this. And she, of course, takes the accelerated silver as well. But the feedback and the testimonials I get from this product are so amazing. And I have to also tell you that on a personal level, I'm 44 years old and I started seeing 2 gray hairs coming through. and that was 6 months ago. And those gray hairs are gone and I don't have a third one. So, is it the MyVitalC? I don't know, but I'm going to say that it is. So anyways, why don't we quickly start with the question, if people did miss the first interview, what is C60? What is carbon 60?
Absolutely. So carbon 60 was actually discovered in 1985, and I'll give kind of the brief version. People can go back to episode 5. This will be the Cliff Notes. It was discovered in 1985 by 3 professors, Dr. Smalley, Dr. Croto, and Dr. Kurl. And what they discovered, carbon 60, is the 3rd form of carbon. So you've got diamond, graphite, and now this 3rd. And it's actually a whole gamut of molecules. Carbon 60, also known as the buckyball, is the most abundant of them. They discovered this 3rd form. By 1996, they actually won the Nobel Prize. So it only took 11 years for the scientific community to just really go nuts about this material for all the properties that it did have and potential properties that it could have. They really felt it was like a 3D version of benzene. A lot of people don't know, but benzene is ubiquitous in our current society. If you look around wherever you're at right now and just look at anything that's plastic, it has a benzene ring as its foundation. Many medicines have a benzene ring as their foundation. It was also known that the benzene ring is actually toxic. It's a known carcinogen. And so it was originally assumed that this buckyball would be toxic. So if you're going to have something that's as ubiquitous as plastics and medicines, and you're also thinking it's toxic, you got to have some understanding of the toxicity level. So they did this toxicity study, and actually my company provided the material in this original study. And in this study, they actually gave rats water. They gave rats olive oil, and then they gave rats olive oil with what. And actually, here's where I start to make what I think is an important distinction, right? Carbon 60 is for industrial applications, and there's peer-reviewed published research that shows it to be harmful. ESS 60 is C60 that's been processed for safer human consumption. So we go back to the study. Rats were given water, olive oil, and then olive oil with ESS 60 in it. Again, it was supposed to be a toxicity study, but instead of being toxic, the rats in the study lived 90% longer than the control group, which is the single longest longevity experiment on mammals ever. Of course, it's peer-reviewed published research. Not only did they live 90% longer, they actually died without tumors. So a typical Worcester rat will die at 32 months and have a known amount of tumors based on how long they lived. These rats, given the MyVitalC formulation, they lived 62 months on average, and none of them had any tumors. So right away, kind of we've shifted at that study from this kind of scientific excitement about something that you put in tires and ink and batteries and solar cells to something that has the potential, really has the best result in peer-reviewed research for longevity. And that's kind of the long and short version of ESS 60 and then MyVitalC.
It truly is amazing. And I noticed right away, and I told you this back in October, that within a couple of days I was sleeping better. And then, of course, when we're talking about the immune system, that is so important to your immune system, regardless of what else you're doing, is your sleep. If you're not sleeping throughout the night and getting the amount of sleep you need, your immune system's shot. I don't care what you're eating or how much you're exercising. And people are stressed right now. This is a really strange time for everybody, financially, emotionally, and everybody's limited. And so, of course, sleep is a big issue for people. And why don't we talk about the immune system and C60 or ESS60, because that was also a really, before we get into that, I actually wanted to touch on, you go to Amazon and you'll see a whole bunch of carbon 60, C60 things. Can you make that distinction again and really talk about, because people, it's not a cheap supplement, but at the same time, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I would say in the Amazon sphere, and we are on it, and we keep tracking. So if you happen to find MyVitalC out there, you might find us. What you do have to be careful of. By the way, if you're listening to this, you should just go to acceleratedhealthproducts.com and get our product there. Sarah's doing a great job for us and her listeners. So take care of her by doing that. If you go on and you search for C60, you're right, you're going to find a lot. And unfortunately, you're actually going to find a number of products that we have tested that do not contain any C60. I actually did a video once, and it showed that this one particular product had 0 C60 in it. And it's part of the reason that we've been pushing forth, hey, if you want to be safe and work with a reputable company, then look for ESS60. Again, C60 is for industrial applications. ESS60 is C60 that's been processed for safer human consumption. There's other things to look out for. We've tested the tablets. Almost no tablet even has what it says it has in it, which interestingly is not unlike the supplement industry in general. There's a lot of research out there that says most supplements don't have what they say they have in them, right? And so you got to find that reputable source. And additionally, some of these actual products that say they have C60 in our tablets, their recommended serving size was 2 tablets. And I did a quick calculation, and in order to get what we recommend as a serving size, you've got to take 20 of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if you follow their directions, if you hear on this podcast or this broadcast, you hear us talking about it and you go say, oh, well, I'll just take these capsules. I kind of like them better than the olive oil. That could be a preference. We understand that. And you take what they recommend you take, you're only getting 1/10 the dose. So it's just an industry, I kind of knew this about the supplement industry. Just a little bit background on me, I never intended on being a supplement guy. I think that people become supplement people, one of two. They want to get really wealthy, and so they decide to sell supplements. And I've got no problem with people, and we're back on. I've got no problem with people who decide that they want to be wealthy and use supplements. There's no problem with people being wealthy. I think the other kind of batch of people is people probably more like you who have solved some people's or their own health problems, and they've done it through supplementation, and now they're out to save the world. And I have no problem with people saving the world. That's also not how I got here. I've been manufacturing this raw ingredient since 1991. They do this study in 2012, and now I'm a guy who's just trying to be a good steward to this molecule, to this technology, and to share it with as many people based on all the amazing testimonials that we're getting.
Well, now you're going to live twice as long to do what you originally planned to do and now have this side job, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm working on a book, and the book's title is going to be Reinvent Yourself as if you're going to live forever, because you might.
Right, exactly. I have a whole different life plan now that I know that I'm going to live to 150. So, But okay, so let's get back to the immune system, because that is where we need to talk about right now as far as the current threat that's going on. And really, you know, the most important thing to do right now is not to look for a vaccine, or not to look for that one pill that's going to help you. It is to boost your immune system, and this is one piece of the puzzle. But let's talk about how MyVitalC can help with the immune system.
Absolutely. So we know the current threat. What we're talking about is COVID-19. I think it would be irresponsible to even suggest that any of the things that we're selling it goes directly and attacks that, right?
Right.
What we're talking about is the impact on the immune system. And actually, I'm about to list the reasons that I know it positively impacts the immune system, and why I sent extra bottles to my mom and have my mom on double doses, right? Because I'm obviously looking to protect her. There are really 5 key things. And one of them, and your iodine product actually listed that and a whole lot more. But we'll jump into MyVitalC. It's a known antibacterial, right? And so a lot of people are like, well, this is a virus. Why would we be that concerned about bacteria? Well, again, we know that if you're in the middle of fighting a bacterial infection, then your immune system is compromised. That's not a good time to start also wrestling with this COVID virus, right, or disease. Right. So it's a known antibacterial. It's a known antiviral. So in the early 90s, so this is, again, was discovered in 85. In the early 90s, the AIDS epidemic, HIV, was really at its peak. And it was known that C60 would actually inhibit the growth of the HIV virus. In fact, there's actually patents out there that support, that are patented, where C60 actually inhibits the growth of the HIV virus. It's interesting that in Spain and in some Chinese cases, they're looking at anti-HIV drugs as to be beneficial to fighting COVID. So again, I'm not saying 1 + 1 = 2. I'm just saying, hey, these are things that compile up and are the reasons that I'm, have my mom taking double doses. The next is it's a known antioxidant, and so there's been some studies that show it's 172 times more powerful than vitamin C, and we know that oxidative stress is something that we need to be taking care of in our bodies, and that is a way that it supports your immune system. Another one is, so you got to be really careful when you start talking about inflammation. The FDA has really kind of equated inflammation with disease, which I think we could have a very legitimate debate that that's not a great equals equation. Like, there's inflammation often when there is no disease. So you have to be careful. So what I like to say is that MyVitalC is very much a strong component in an anti-inflammatory diet, right? And we know that those people on anti-inflammatory diets, like the Mediterranean diet is one really good example. They actually have better cognitive function. They have less incidences of Alzheimer's, and they live longer. They're one of those blue areas where people actually live longer. And so, yes, part of an anti-inflammatory diet. And then finally, and I think this is most importantly, our testimonials are just amazing, as you know, and you've given some good ones. I actually use your skin testimonial on a regular basis to talk about the benefits. And so you know this, but sleep, we all know that sleep is important to your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Like, we just know this. I think we also, as a society, tend to do a lot of lip service to sleep. It's like, oh, sleep is really important. You got to get your 7.5 to 8.5 hours of sleep opportunity every night. Well, unless there's something else to do, and then, maybe you don't get your sleep and you'll get it later. Well, there's a book called Why We Sleep that you should read. It's the scariest book on sleep I think that you'll ever read. And it talks about the very specific bad things that happen to our health and our mental acuity when we don't get sleep. It's bad. Lack of sleep is bad for your cardiovascular system. I don't know if you know this, but on daylight savings time, when we lose an hour of sleep, heart attacks go up that day. And when we gain an hour of sleep, heart attacks go down that day. So it's bad for your cardiovascular health to lack sleep. It's bad for how your body handles insulin and blood sugar levels. If you go for very long without sleep, and it's not even that long, a couple of days, you'll actually start to test positive for diabetes, right? So that's how important sleep is. And then there's, half the book is about, studying some information and then testing them the next day, whether they had the right amount of sleep or not the right amount of sleep. And your cognitive capabilities are almost out the window without sleep. So,
yeah. I wanted to just a little support on that one. When I was back in my years at Stanford, my roommate was part of, and I was a psychology minor, and we did a sleep study. So I think there were like five people that didn't sleep or committed to not sleep for 3 days, and my roommate was one of them. And here you've got some pretty smart people. They could not carry on a conversation just missing that one night of sleep and just after 24 hours. And then you put them on stage after 2 days. They were not functioning. And yes, it does raise your cortisol because your body's stressed when you don't have enough sleep, which increases inflammation throughout the body and a whole cascade of immune suppressing mechanisms that go on. So it is so important. And for me, I'm a type A personality. I like to get things done. I like to make the most of my day. And so it's really easy for me to say, oh, well, I'll lose another hour of sleep. I'll just get something more done and be more productive. And I've learned that I can't. I have to make sure that I'm getting my 8 hours of sleep. And then I also wanted to touch on the vitamin C, MyVitalC relationship, and it being 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. And you tell me if this is too strong of an inference, but vitamin C therapy was being used in New York and in China for the coronavirus. So if this is 172 times more powerful than vitamin C, then I would think that it would only help you in this situation.
Well, yeah, that certainly folds into the equation of why I'm sending, hot shotted or FedEx extra bottles to my mom and have her take in double doses. Because, vitamin C, high doses of vitamin C are being utilized or at least studied and on the impact that they can have on COVID-19.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's important to know, right, when you start talking about antioxidants, the only way you can test an antioxidant is in a petri dish, and how something reacts in the body versus how something reacts in a petri dish is totally different. So, for instance, there are lots of people who have for a long time taken a lot of vitamin C. I've never seen anybody even anecdotally report, oh, when I started taking Vital C, I started sleeping better, right? Or when I started taking vitamin C, I had less pain in my joints. Or, some of our testimonials are as crazy, similar to what you mentioned. I've got hair growing back, which is usually just a sign that your body's in balance, right? Mm-hmm. And it can get back to those tasks that it was saying, those aren't as important. We need to be repairing stuff over here. Let's not worry about hair growth.
Right.
And so even though it's 172 times more powerful, we think that it fundamentally works a different way. But I definitely, that goes into my equation in that decision to say, like, hey, Mom, I want you on double doses. Let me know when your amount is down, so I can send you another bottle or a couple bottles.
I agree. And then as far as the hair growth, I always tell people, if you see a sign of your hair either going in the wrong direction or in the right direction, it's the last thing your body cares about. It doesn't care. Your body doesn't care what you look like. Yep. So if your hair is suffering or it's improving, that means that your insides and your other organs and everything else is either working a lot better or it's compromised. So that is a true sign of health. And the fact that my hair is going in the right direction, it's like, okay, everything else is working well. My immune system's strong. My inflammation is pretty low. And I, probably the fact that I'm less stressed because I know I'm going to live twice as long as part of it as well.
You have time to accomplish all of your goals.
Yeah. So now I have time to sleep.
Yes.
Well, why don't we go through a couple of the other testimonial / reported benefits of the MyVitalC?
Well,
I mean, I know there's a lot of them, and I don't know how many of them have been researched and reported, or if they're just through client testimonials.
Yeah, so, again, we're jumping into this. We probably haven't yet done an FDA disclaimer, so I'm sure this applies to Sarah's products as well as mine. The FDA hasn't evaluated them. They're not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. Let's stay on sleep first, because I'm really excited. I don't know if you're familiar with Oura Ring, and I don't remember had I started the Oura Ring sleep study when I was on episode 5?
No, you haven't. Okay. So this is new.
Yeah. So we've got 13 people who are in the study. So you did your study in Stanford. I'm doing my study now, not in school. And so I've got an Oura Ring. I'm actually in contact with a University of California, San Diego professor who is a consultant for Oura Ring, and so has access to the back end of the data of Oura Ring, and is helping me in this study. Basically, the study is if anybody out there has an Oura Ring and they haven't tried MyVitalC, then we'll get them a couple of bottles to try MyVitalC, and they give us 10 days of data prior to being on the product, and then 10 days of data after being on the product, and then off of it again 10 days, and then back on it again 10 days. And so we're getting this cycling, and we're collecting the data. And the first person who went through the entire study just basically said they're a lifelong customer. So I'm really excited. I'm a scientist by background. I'm really excited to have data that supports, again, our customers call in and they give these amazing testimonials. And I'm like, well, but I'm a scientist. So first off, I do believe you, right? I believe that you're getting this result because you're telling it to me. And I tend to believe what people share with me. But I want more information. And I'm excited because this is one of the fastest way we've been able to collect some data as it relates to our product and in this case, actually sleep. So really excited about that. That's just phenomenal. Some of the other testimonials, I've got a couple favorite testimonials. I think let's talk about, that's the sleep study. Let's talk about a couple of sleep testimonials. I know there's a lady in the office next door. She was actually telling me a little bit, by the way, any testimonial I ever talk about is something that I have documented, and I can send you, if needed, I can put them in contact. This is one of the things that is important for FDA and FTC. These are legitimate people, and I can send you directly to them if that was an important thing to do. So I gave her, she was actually talking about going through some oncology treatments and unfortunately was talking about how she didn't have the budget for all of her treatments. And I'm like, well, that just sounds horrible. I don't like that. So I gave her a number of bottles, and then I checked back in with her, I think it was about 7 days later. And I was like, hey, so how are you feeling? Have you noticed anything? And she was actually, kind of a little disappointed and said, well, Chris, I got to be honest, I haven't really noticed anything. And I asked her, well, how's your sleep? And her eyes got ginormous, right? Just huge. And she goes, that's crazy you mentioned that. I've been posting on Facebook that I'm waking up at 5:30 in the morning. Well rested, of course. But sleep is one of those things that you don't really notice, right? We've all experienced a half hour or an hour more or less of sleep on various nights. Maybe one night it's an hour more, and the next night it's an hour less, and the next night an hour more. So if you start taking this product, it's not something you take it and you get an immediate surge of energy and now you can take over the world. So you don't have that sense. If you get 1 hour of sleep extra tonight and then 1 hour of sleep extra the next night, by the time you're on the third night, you've forgotten it's already a new normal for you, right? And you've forgotten that it was caused by MyVitalC. And so that, story supports that. That's exactly what's going on. You just don't realize that it's happened because sleep can be so variable. And then my other sleep testimonial I like is I've got a business coach, and he said for 50 years I needed the alarm clock to wake up. And once I started MyVitalC, I've been waking up before the alarm clock. And through various times he's run out and then gotten back on it. And he says it takes about a week before he has to start using the alarm clock again. And then he doesn't have to use the alarm clock once he's back on the product.
What's so amazing too is it's not because you're taking the supplement right before bed. You're taking it. I mean, I personally take it at around noon. I intermittent fast, so I don't take it early in the morning. I know most people like to take it first thing because it gives them energy. But I wait a few hours, but I'm taking this at noon, but it's affecting my sleep later on. So it's just showing that your body's in balance. It's whether it has to do with the circadian rhythm of the sun and the moon, I don't know, but it works. And,
I think that's a great point, because in that book, Why We Sleep, again, amazing book, it talks about the $2 billion, and I'm going to do air quotes here, sleep aid industry, and what the sleep aids that they prescribe do to you. And what they do is they just knock you out, right? So you mentioned ATP, right? And how iodine helps support the ATP functions. Well, the A in ATP is adenosine. So as ATP is breaking apart, kind of providing energy to the cell, that adenosine is building up in your system. And that's the chemical that actually tells your body, hey, I need to get some sleep. So these quote unquote sleep aids, they knock you out. They relieve that adenosine pressure, chemical pressure, and you wake up without the desire to sleep. But because you were knocked out, you haven't gotten your proper REM sleep. Everyone's familiar with REM sleep, but in that book, they talk about NREM sleep, another very important healing type of sleep. Both of those are very important healing sleeps. And you don't get those on these sleep aids that are prescribed. Our product, you actually take in the morning or in the afternoon, and then people report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. And I used to say I'm not aware of anything that you do in the morning that will impact your sleep that night, but there are a couple. Like one of them is exercise. We know if you woke up and exercised in the morning, you would sleep better that night. That's just, exercise is healthy and it gets your system in alignment, and so you sleep better. And the other is actually exposure to the sunrise, right? To get your circadian rhythm in sync with the actual light that's available outside of your home. That will help you sleep that night also. But other than that, none of these sleep aids, even supplements that I know are work, valerian root is actually really good for quieting your brain before you go to sleep. Magnesium has a really calming effect, right? There's products out there called Calm. So there's lots of things that can help you. It's just that MyVitalC is the only one I'm aware of that you take in the morning, energy and mental focus during the day, and then better sleep that night.
Exactly. I have a client actually who kept talking about how tired she was. And I said, well, okay, so what supplements are you taking? She said magnesium was one of them. I said, well, when are you taking your magnesium? She says, when I wake up in the morning. I said, no. That's the problem. You're asleep all day long. So yes, it is probably the only supplement that you take earlier in the day that gives you energy throughout the day and then puts you to sleep and gets your system in sync. There's so many testimonials that I've seen and I've read on helping with arthritis and increasing strength and vitality and helping with the nervous system and nerve damage or protecting from nerve damage. And all of these things are there. I don't know if you have any research on these or just more testimonials, but I've got a dad with neuropathy, and I keep telling him I'm not making any promises that you're going to get your nerves back, but I can only think that it's going to help things from moving in the wrong direction even further. Right.
Yeah, I think when you start talking about one thing we do know is that the product does cross the blood-brain barrier, and there is everything that we're about to talk about, right? You can talk about mental health, and you can talk about we've got testimonials related to dementia, we've got testimonials related to Alzheimer's, and all of that could just be caused by better sleep. Right? Like if you've got an Alzheimer's patient who isn't getting proper sleep, we know that if they get proper sleep, that's going to be better. Right. one of the testimonials that kind of resonated with me since I have children is that I was on the phone, actually been on the phone with her a couple of times. I actually like to get on the phone with customers and see how their experiences have been. And she shared with me that her son used to go to the hospital for mental illness issues about 5 times a year. And she got him on the product in 2019, and he didn't go in 2019. He didn't need to go in 2019. If we also get into kind of mind, this is much less about kind of illness and maybe processing, but I personally used to get migraines. I would get 4 or 5 migraines per year, and I have a spreadsheet. So I'm very nerdy, sciencey guy. And so back to 2014, I'd get 4 or 5 migraines a year. I started the product really in 2018. I didn't get a single migraine in 2018, and then throughout 2019, I ended up getting 2. So if we put 2018 and 2019 together, I should have had 8 to 10, and I only had 2. I can also say this year I went off of my product in order to get sleep data, right? Because I got to participate in my own studies. and I got a migraine while I was off my product.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Now, and you couple that with my wife. She actually gets she has a medication that they prescribe to her. They can only prescribe 9 per month. And she was using all 9 because they're strong, and so they can't give more than that. So she was using all 9 and having that many migraines per month. Since she's been on the product, she's down to 1 or 2 migraines a month. And so that's for me some very serious information as it relates to what possible impact this could have on migraines.
Well, I think, migraines and headaches typically are some form of inflammation, right? And so, that's just one sign. And I mean, I have people that are switching to a vegan diet because of migraines, and how much better would it be just to take a supplement and not have to drastically change your diet to cut out all animal protein, which that's a whole nother issue that I don't want to approach right now. But I mean, the amount of testimonials on flexibility and joints and the eyesight, that was one I wanted to touch on macular degeneration and helping with vision. Obviously, just a pure reducing the inflammation in the optic nerve is going to help your eyesight and improve your vision. And I'm at the age right now where a lot of people start wearing glasses. My vision is still perfect, knock on wood.
Good, yeah.
And I'm hoping it stays that way now being on MyVitalC. But do you see that as well with your client testimonials?
Yeah, so I can speak, certainly I haven't really noticed anything. I also wear glasses all the time, and I know that one of the things, if your eyes have the potential to improve, you really need to give them the opportunity to exercise and improve. And I just wear my glasses all the time, so I'm probably not even giving it a fair shake. My business partner was actually starting to use glasses for computer use, right? So anytime he's looking at the computer, he's got these kind of yellow blockers, and he stopped using those. My wife was also having some deterioration, and when she got on the product, again, 2018, she was no longer using her glasses. So there are a number of testimonials. Again, no peer-reviewed published research. That's one of the things that's most frustrating to me. But there are a number of testimonials as to having a positive impact on eyesight.
So as we're getting to the end of the hour, I wanted to make sure we touched on the dosage, because I didn't know if during this time when we're all trying to boost our immune system as much as possible, the typical recommended dose is about 1 teaspoon once a day for someone in the range of 150 pounds. Would you double that dose now, or what are you recommending?
I think like I said, I've got my mom on double doses. So she's on 2 teaspoons per day, right? That's 15 milliliters per day. And in my case, I actually will have it incorporated into my coffee routine. I make it part of my routine, and I've really been taking almost a tablespoon a day. And then if I know I'm going to be busy, it's interesting. When I went off of my product this year, didn't do it until March, and the reason the reason my mic died again here. Until March was because I knew January and February were real busy, and I didn't want to be without my product because it impacts how I feel and everything. So yeah, it is late into March that I finally went off of the product. For me, I want to build it into my routine. If I have a busy day, I'll actually even take double my dose, which is higher than most people.
And do you recommend, if someone's doubling the dose, to take it all at once or split it up throughout the day? Or does it matter?
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. We've had a very small number of people have shared with us that if they take it at night, it can keep them up. I've even had some people say if they take it in the afternoon, it can keep them up. So that's obviously not impacting you. And then so if you're the kind of person who's maybe a little bit sensitive and your sleep can be disrupted easier, I would want to get those servings in much earlier in the day.
And lastly, I do have people ask me, are there any side effects to taking too much? Or have you seen any reports of any side effects?
So first off, if there's any adverse, like truly and significant adverse effects, it's our responsibility, legal responsibility to report that to the FDA. So we haven't had to do that because we haven't had any results that are adverse and significant. The quote unquote adverse effects that we might get is it is an oil, right? So it's olive oil, and some people, if they take a teaspoon of olive oil, that won't necessarily sit well on their stomach. Some people don't like the taste of olive oil. I like it or have grown accustomed to it. But you can just take the product with a little bit of bread, or it's okay to take with food. And taking it with food is not necessary because if you think about it, olive oil is food, and the raw ingredient C60 is in that food product. And so yeah, you can. But if you're a light/sensitive sleeper, I would try and get those servings in earlier in the day.
And have you seen people taking extremely high doses with? I'm sure there's no toxicity. I was with the rat study. Am I correct in saying that the equivalent to the human dosage would be about a cup a day, or
yes,
with no toxicity?
Yeah. So if you just did a straight per kilogram translation of how much the rats were given in the original study, what you would be taking is a full cup of olive oil. I know people who have taken multiple bottles in one sitting. A bottle typically about 120 mils, or 4 ounces. And so the current belief is that the toxicity of the product is the same as the toxicity of olive oil, right? So I don't know that there's a known toxicity or any toxicity of olive oil. But you don't want to run around. There have been you can actually die of water from drinking too much water too quickly. So at some point, it's going to be detrimental. I don't know if that means it's because you're drowning, or if it means because there's some impact that it's having on your system. And again, like if you're taking a lot of doses, it's going to significantly affect your bowel movements until your body gets used to it. But that's probably not a bad thing.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because in my liver flush cleanse, if anyone's looking for a liver flush cleanse, the last day you do a combination of a citrus fruit and a cup of olive oil, and that cleans out the stones out of your liver and your gallbladder. So if you're drinking any sort of cup of olive oil, that you will have that effect, and it will affect your bowel movements. But we have run out of time, Chris. I'm so happy we made this happen, and thank you so much for coming on. And you guys can find MyVitalC at Accelerated Health Products in addition to the Immune Bundle. And if you have any questions regarding your personal health, you can contact me, Sarah Banta, at sarah@acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Happy to put together a protocol for you. I know sometimes it's hard to know where to start. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and on my YouTube channel at Accelerated Health Radio. You can also find this episode and all my episodes on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Pandora, or whatever podcast platform you subscribe to. I'm also now on Accelerated Health Bites, where I do short informational videos about health topics and solutions that you ask about. And if you have a health condition or topic you want me to address, just let me know. And if you liked what you hear today, please hit the subscribe button and share this with a few friends who may need my help, especially right now. People are looking for immune boosters. And as you share my channel, it will help me help more people like you and bring more cutting edge guests to my show. Don't miss next week's interview with Dr. Ian Smith, best-selling author of Mind Over Weight. And please send me your questions and topics that you'd like to hear. You can also use coupon W4HC20 for 20% off site-wide, including the supplements we talked about today. Thanks again for joining us here on Accelerated Health Radio, and have a great week.
Are you wanting to optimize your physical, mental, and emotional health? Visit www.acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Accelerated Health Products to detox, reset, and rebuild your immune system naturally, and to accelerate your body, mind, and spirit with cutting-edge supplements and solutions. Get Sarah Banta's personal advice on a protocol just right for you. That's www.acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Thank you for joining us today on W4HC Radio for Accelerated Health Radio with Sarah Banta. Make sure to tune in every week at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to uncover your highest potential through natural and innovative wellness modalities.